Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Troy Woods, and I am a professional photographer located in the Washington, D.C. area. Look, wanted to make this video, and I promise, I know there are going to be other videos on YouTube talking about the same subject, but I wanted to kind of give you the quick and dirty. If you're like me, I like to get to the meat of it. I don't like to get kind of caught up in all of the little details that really don't pertain to me and my professional career. So Nikon just announced last night, as a matter of fact, the updates to their Z line of cameras, and particularly their Z6 and their Z7. They upgrade them to the Z62 and the Z72. Now, I'm in the middle of making a decision of if I want to stay with Nikon or if I actually wanted to switch over to Sony. Canon really hasn't been an option for me, even though it's a great camera system. But I've kind of been looking at, Sony and Nikon and trying to compare them to each other. And so one of the biggest drawbacks that I had with the Z line, I can tell you, were the fact that it didn't take an extended battery grip, which I use a lot of times for my vertical portraits. And also there was not a dual card slot. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way right now. Those things have been added to the Z62 and the Z72. But there are a couple details, and I did kind of take down some notes because, like I told you, this is not going to be getting into every pixel, every spec on each one of these cameras, but I wanted to get some information to you because if you're like me, you kind of want to get right to the point of knowing, is this the camera that I need? So right off, we got the Z62, which is a 24 megapixel camera. Like I said before, that along with the Z72, they do have dual card slots. They take the SD card and the XQD card. The Z62 has an ISO range of 100 to 51,200. Now let's look at video. For video, the Z62 does 4K at 30 frames per second, but it does 1080 at 120 frames per second. And it has 273 focus points at single point autofocus. Also, the Z62 has a high-speed shutter. It does up to 14 frames per second. Now let's kind of look over at the Z72. The Z72 compared to the Z62 at 24 megapixels, the Z72 does 45 megapixels. Like I said, it also has a dual card slots. It has an ISO range of 64 to 25,600. It does video at 4K 60 frames per second, along with 1080p at 120 frames per second. And as far as focus points, it has 493, and also it touts a really good high dynamic range. All right, so let's break this down really quickly. And what does that mean for you? Because I'm sharing this information because I know what it means for me. When you get down and looking at these two cameras, they look very similar. And you may say, okay, which one do I want to get? I'm gonna go ahead and insert the price point here. The Z62 is coming in at $1,999.95. So $1999.95. The Z72 is coming in at $29.95. So basically $2,000 and $3,000. So there's a $1,000 difference in between these two cameras. So let's look at some best use scenarios for these particular cameras. And this is just based on my opinion, based on my profession and working in this industry. If you had to ask me, Troy, which camera should I get? I would tell you to get the Z62 if you were doing sports and you were really into video. All right, and mainly the reason I say that is because of the high-speed shutter for sports. And video is going to give you, it's going to go all the way up, like we said, to 51,200. So it's going to perform really well in low light. So if I'm looking at the Z62, I'm looking for sports and I'm looking for video. All right. The Z72, I would say, is more along the lines of commercial photographers, studio photographers like myself, because of the high dynamic range, because of the large file sizes at 45 megapixels, and because of the lower ISO. The reason I say the lower ISO is because it starts at 64 as far as ISO, but that's really good for somebody like me in studio. So I can tell you off the bat, I'm probably looking at a Z72 just because of the work that I do. A lot of commercial work that I do, a lot of portraiture, branding, everything else, where I'm required to really push a lot of pixels. All right, so I think it's really important for us to also understand all of these camera systems are great, whether you're looking at Canon, Sony, or Nikon. It's all about what you're familiar with and where your budget is. I will tell you that each one of them are doing a really good job. at trying to listen to the consumers and really put into these camera systems what the consumers are asking for. Also, a big thing for me is glass. Now we're not going to talk about that in this video, but I did a side-by-side comparison on cost. All right, so if we're looking at glass, the glass is relatively, it's about the same, maybe within $100 or $200. Like if you're looking at a 70 to 200 for both Sony and Nikon, the glass is right there. So for me, I'm really leaning at sticking with Nikon at this point because I believe that the camera systems that they're introducing are conducive for my work. I can get what I need to get out of those camera systems for my work, along with a couple of extra other features. One thing that I've always taken pride in with my career is I've never been one to just buy a lot of gear just for the sake of buying a lot of gear. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Most of the time, my camera kit has run with a 24 to 70, a 7200, and a 50mm prime. All right, and I have rented gear in the past if I need kind of specialty lenses. For those of you that are considering lens options, the reason that I picked that is because I think those are the more traditional lenses based on typical work. All right, so like I said, you have a 50mm, 24 to 70, 7200. Now I will say I'm in the process of upgrading my camera gear as well as my lenses. So when I switch over this time and upgrade my glass, I'm going to go mainly to primes. I have a 7200, but I'm going to also implement or actually put into my kit an 85mm, probably a 24mm. Now, anything outside of that, like if you were to go say 105 macro, you're really getting into detailed shots as far as if you're a wedding photographer. So you're kind of getting into kind of a niche there if you're really doing weddings. So you would need probably the 3 lenses that I mentioned, along with like a 105 to really get your detail shots. Now, all the way down past 24, if you wanted to go wider, say, and I'm not sure what the exact range would be, but say like anything wider than a 24, like a 16mm or whatever, 16 to something. You're gonna be looking at that as far as like architecture, different things like that. So that's why I say those particular lenses that I have kind of keep me right in the middle of where I needed to be. So always make sure, like I said, that you're purchasing gear that's conducive to what you need it to be, and don't get caught up with all the specs unless you're a person that just likes that type of information. I mean, I kind of got a nerdy side myself, so I do like getting in the weeds sometimes, but when we're talking about making purchases and spending your hard-earned money, make sure that you're getting what you need, because a lot of times for some of you, some of this doesn't matter. Like, you can almost jump to any camera system and get the great results. Now, I do know that different camera systems produce different types of quality as far as skin tones and different things like that. So you do have to be mindful for that if you're that detailed. But for the most part, for a lot of you all, it's just getting into a camera system that's ergonomically comfortable for you, that you're able to get what you need from the camera system. So I hope this information was useful. I know it was useful for me in making my decision, but I definitely wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section below. And if you would, I ask you please subscribe to this channel, like this video, because it's going to help us on YouTube. And I look forward to bringing you more content soon. Until the next video, take care.